قال محمد هو ابن مالك أحمد رب الله خير مالك مصليا على النبي المصطفى وآله المستكملين الشرفاء. Muhammad said, and he is Ibn Malik, I praise my Lord, the best of owners, and sending grace upon the chosen prophet and upon his family who were complete in their nobility. This is the beginning of the Alfiyah of Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Malik al-Ta'i al-Jayyani, known as Ibn Malik. He was born in the year 600 or 1203, and he died in 672. Born in Jayyan, Andalusia, which is a province in southern Spain, in the eastern part of the autonomous community of Spain. It's bordered by the provinces of Granada and Cordoba. You can find it easily on a map today. The capital is Jaén City. To give you an idea, the region today produces about 20% of the world's olive oil. So it's still a standing region that's there, that's productive, that has a history. Born there and raised there, he studied with some of the premier scholars of his land, like Abu Ali al-Shalubin and others. Later in life, he moved to Aleppo, to Syria, and he studied with Ibn Hajib and Ibn Aish, two of the premier scholars of language at that time. Now, while he was from Jayan, his family traces its heritage back to the ancient tribe of Tayy, whose homeland is in northern Arabia, near the modern-day city of Ha'il, which is in Saudi Arabia. Now, after moving to Syria, he started to write what is known as his probably most famous work, Al-Khulasa fi al-Nahu. And it's a nearly 1,000 line long poem that summarizes all the essential aspects of the Arabic grammar. Since the writing of his works, Arabic language and its grammar was essentially standardized in its structure, and his works surpassed those of his teachers in schools, universities, and scholarly circles. Before Ibn Malik, Ibn Hajib's works were the standard, and then he became the standard. Now, I want you to compare this with the standardization of modern French, which happened about nearly 400 years later in the 17th century. That's interesting to note, the standardization of Arabic at that time, before most modern European languages. The Alfiyat Ibn Malik is one of the most widespread and taught books of grammar ever, and was one of the texts memorized by students after the Quran, pretty much since after Ibn Malik had wrote it. There are over 40 different explanations of the Alfiyah. Alfiyah meaning 1,000. It's an attribution to it being 1,000 lines, or nearly 1,000 lines. Now, students many times when studying this book get sidelined by expansive explanations, marginalia, and unnecessary details. I remember while studying in Medina, there was one student who was insisting on reading the Ihmirar of Ibn Buna, which adds a few thousand lines of poetry to the already 1,000 line poem. Others may opt for Ibn Hisham's Awdah al-Masalik, which translates to the easiest of paths. But this book goes into, Awdah al-Masalik that is, goes into so many details about variant dialects and opinions of grammarians that it makes it almost unapproachable. It was nicknamed by some of our friends in the faculty of Arabic language as Awqah al-Mahadik, the nastiest of disasters. Others still will read Sharh ibn Aqil, and that is the book that we actually studied in the law faculty in Kulliyat Sharia in Medina. And it in and of itself is a great explanation, but it can be long and sometimes have details that aren't necessary if you're a bright and attentive student. So which explanations should you start with? Well, my teachers recommended this one, Sharh al by Al Makudi. Abu Zayd Abdurrahman ibn Ali ibn Salih al Makudi al-Fasi, Imam of the grammarians of his time and the most knowledgeable of them in the Arabic language. And he himself lived in about the year, or was born in the year 807. He was from the Makud tribe of the Huwara and lived between Fas and Taza. As we mentioned, he died in the year 807. And his upbringing, during his upbringing, he studied the work of Sibawayh's magnum opus, Al-Kitab. He then explained several books in his signature, pithy, succinct style. He explained the Ajurumiyya, Ibn Durayd's Al-Mamdud wal-Maqsur, one poem about the praise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Al-Madih, and including this one, Alfiyat Ibn Malik. Now, some of you may be saying, shouldn't I start with something smaller, not start with Alfiyah? Why don't I start with Al-Ajrumiyya or Qat al-Nada? Shouldn't I go gradually when studying grammar? And the answer is, if you can knock out grammar one time, then do so. As my teacher, Sheikh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymin rahmatullah alayhi, said to us once, if a student finds themselves with the capacity to study one comprehensive text, then they should do so and not waste time with gradual studies. Each person has to gauge this on their own. So here in the introduction to this book, there's an interesting phrase. It says, بِقَدْرِ مَا تَتَعَنَّى تَنَالُ مَا تَتَمَنَّى. In proportion to your struggle, you'll reach your aspirations. So if you're aspiring to learn the Arabic language and to learn the grammar, just pick up the Alfiyah and knock it out. So what's special about this book here? Well, it's short, 356 pages, an average of about 200 words in explanation of each line of poetry. It makes the study and review of this essential text that much more accessible. If you were to read a page a day, you can finish it in a year. Read 5 pages and you're looking at little more than 2 months. There are 2 prints of this book, one by Dar al-Kutub al-Ilmiya, which is this one here, and the other was a print by the University of Kuwait in 2 volumes. Now, while I haven't seen the other print, I recommend that you keep your books small and precise, especially if they're ones that you're going to study. Many times, university dissertations can be bloated with footnotes because that's just the nature of editing a book at a university. So why Makudi? Well, Makudi's style is simple, it's targeted, it's accessible with examples from prose and poetry. If you can study it or need a quick review, then this is the book for you. Don't be daunted by its size, either the enormity of the 1,000-line poetry or the smallness of this explanation. It is a great explanation of this book and a great cornerstone that you can lean on for learning the Arabic language. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and let me know in the comments what interested you about this book or the topics mentioned in it. Let's discuss some of the Arabic grammar that you've studied in the comments. And I'll see you next time inside my library.